Hi everyone, welcome along. This is Bree Imagined and I'm Bree. This week's video has actually been a month in the making. There was so much work to do on this piece. This piece. I got it for 20 bucks off of Facebook Marketplace, and the stained glass was all crushed in, and I don't know, it just looked old and broken and boring and dark, and I don't know. So we went about fixing it. Took a long time, took a lot to do. I did teach myself how to fix the stained glass. It's not really stained glass, it's just lead lighting because it's all just plain glass. But I couldn't quite get it finished because, well, my husband's mum, who lives on the other side of the country, had to go to hospital. So he, of course, went over there to go see his mum, as people do. And now that he's over there, he's managed to get COVID. So he's stuck there a bit longer than expected. But you see, he's my welder or my solderer. So I couldn't quite finish the lead lighting to put it on. So what you see behind me, just trying to work out where my finger is. There is the piece finished, but I don't have the lead lighting door on it because it's not finished yet. But so I'm tossing up whether it needs the door at all. But we will finish the door and put it on when the other half comes back with his soldering fingers and his knowledge of how to do that, because, you know, I don't know how. He was going to teach me, we just didn't quite get around to it in time. Anyway, so enough rambling from me. We're going to, start from the beginning and go through the process, and right at the very end of the video I'm going to go through the stained glass stuff. So basically you'll see the project go from where it started to here, and then after that there's all the stained glass stuff to show you how I did that. And it was really easy. I'm not sure how easy it is to do it like really well, but for a first effort I was really quite pleased with myself. So yeah, go have a look at that because it's really, really interesting. And so easy, I'm pretty sure anyone who does furniture flipping could do it. So, if I've rambled enough, I think I've rambled enough, let's get going. So the piece came to me in a fairly totally grotty state. The drawer handles weren't genuine. The other handles were just a little bit strange. The lead lighting was kind of bowed inwards, it was bowed inwards, and several pieces were cracked and broken, and we did manage to break another piece off as we were taking it home, so it was in pretty poor shape. So the first thing to do was to clean all of the cobwebs off it and any associated creepy crawlies that went along with that. Then I removed the bottom panels from the front because they looked kind of weird. I did it in my usual delicate feminine fashion. Then we cleaned out the drawers, discovered a very beautiful massive, I don't know, ink stain or something under here, which was great, and removed the handles.
hinges were held on with screws and nails, which I've seen before. So first of all I removed the screws, and then I got the trusty old hammer out to remove the nails as well. And after that I removed the internal shelves. One of them was very bowed, and I will tell you a bit later on what I did to get around that. Next, using my trusty multi-tool, I removed the bottom part of the sides so that they matched up to where the front was, now that the front little panel-y things were gone. I wanted to see what kind of timber was under this really dark stain, so I took the bit that I took from off the bottom at the front and got into it with the orbital sander, and discovered that that was actually the colour of the timber. It wasn't stained. Once I'd sanded it back and put a little bit of mineral terps on, that was exactly the same colour. So that led me to very quickly decide to paint out anything that was that really, really dark timber colour. Next job was to remove the handles from the doors. And they were pretty weird, the doors. The handles were just very odd. And then scuff sand the whole surface of the doors where that really dark timber was. I then wiped away all of the sanding dust and then just used some general purpose filler to fill in the dings and cracks and scratches and places where the door had seen better days. Then I removed the bottom of the drawer where there was the big stain so that I could turn it over and put the clean side inside the drawer. Drawer insides are really easy to sand when there's no bottom in the drawer. So if you have reason to pull the bottoms out of drawers, I'd suggest that you get in there with your sander and sand the inside of the drawer while you've got the chance. Once all the filler was dry, we got in with the orbital sander and sanded it away back to flat. You'll notice there's not very much of it left once I sand, but you'll notice that there's like a line of dots across the middle of the door, and it looked like someone maybe drove something into it, or I don't know, managed to put like a line on the door. But that's okay, it was all filled up and now it looks amazing. After filling and sanding, I discovered that some of the holes still required a little bit more filler, so we went ahead and did that. Alrighty, so the whole unit hadn't had a proper clean, so this is me going in with my sugar soap and water solution, spraying that on, wiping it back, and then wiping it back again with just plain water. The inside of this cabinet smelt old. I can't explain it any better than that. It just smelt like an old cabinet that had been around for a long time. It wasn't stinky like nicotine or anything gross. It just smelled old. So after it got a clean out and some paint, it was much better. I'd been on the lookout for something equivalent in Australia to your Bondo in America, and this is what I came across. It's Turbo Builders Bog. Looks like the same kind of stuff. It's 2 parts. You add the hardener to the body of the stuff, and then work it in, and then just apply it directly. What I did find is that sanding this was a lot easier than the other filler that I'd been using, so I'll be using a whole lot more of this Builders Bog in future. Since the middle portion was going to be open, or at least you could see into there because of the LED lighting, I decided to caulk the edges just to get rid of the big gaps that I could see. And sometimes best tool for the job is your fingers. It's just a thing. I used a sanding sponge to get into the circular and groovy kind of places where the orbital sander couldn't go, and then we were finally done with all the prep work except for one thing. So here we are, all taped up, ready for tomorrow, looking amazing. But then the weather the next day was just miserable, so we had to shift into the garage, chuck the car out so that I could do the painting. So I started off with 2 coats of the Rustoleum flat grey primer, and then went on with 2 coats of the Dulux Duramax chalky finish in vintage charcoal. I used spray bottles for all of these, so cans of spray that I bought at Bunnings, purely because I wanted to see how it turned out, how it looked at the end. I have a spray set, but I do have to get some additional bits for it so that it will spray water-based paint. So I wasn't too concerned about it costing a bucket load to do this. I just wanted to see what the finish would look like. I did sand in between each coat, and just so you know, the finish turned out absolutely beautiful. It was so smooth. I was very impressed. And then once it was dry, I got the very great pleasure of removing all of the tape and seeing the beautiful crisp lines that this gives, and just seeing how lovely the timber looked inside with the grey on the outside. Just turned out beautiful. So now that all the hard work was done, it was time to start adding some beautiful things to the unit. In just grey, obviously. It was very square and dark, so I decided to add some florals to the front cabinets, and also to the drawers, and also some wallpaper to the inside back of the cabinet in the middle. I don't have any fancy crickets or silhouettes, so all of this is done by hand, just tracing the design on. Leaves a really faint line in the chalk paint, and then I went back in with my gold paint pen. This is the first layer, but I did go back over it again so that the paint looked a little more regular rather than looking like I'd coloured it in with texture. Then I struggled my way through putting some wallpaper into the back centre of the cabinet. And I fitted some string lights, some LEDs inside the top of the middle cabinet as well, just to brighten that area up a little bit. These are really easy to install, and they're built in such a way that you can get the battery cover off without having to remove the unit at all. So they're really well put together and so easy to install. If you're looking for a lighting solution, this is a good one. The cutlery drawer was lined with beautiful bright orange cord material, and you know, despite how absolutely beautiful it was, I did decide to update it. So I got out my heat gun to work the old fabric off and replaced it with some new kind of clarity velveteen that I had. I drilled holes for the new hardware in the doors and the drawers and put those on, and then I rehung the doors with their original screws and nails. Remember before I told you that there was one of the shelves was really bowed. So what I did was I took out all three of the shelves, threw away the bowed one. The middle shelf was wider than the other two, so what I ended up doing was replacing that wide shelf with a glass shelf and using that wide shelf for the other side. So cutting it back to the right size so that I could use it on the other side of the cabinet. So just quickly reminding you about the dingy, poor old cabinet that we had at the beginning, just before we reveal where we got to with it. Obviously it'll look a whole lot different when we put the LED lighting back on the front, but this is how it came up to date. It looks really nice. The finish is absolutely beautiful. I love the detailing. I love the knobs that I picked out. I think they work really well with the wallpaper in the back, and the light just adds a little bit more, you know, pizzazz to the whole thing. Stay tuned to find out how I fixed the LED lighting and where we are at with that. Okay, so the tools that I bought to do the work with the glass were these. This is obviously a glass cutter. It cuts from this end. There's a little loopy thing. Let me see if I can get this to focus in on it. Focus, almost. There we go. A little cutter at the end there. You can fill these with oil. They suggested Kero, so I've got some Kero, but I haven't put any in it. You use it that way, so that flat edge runs along the glass when you across. And this end you use to tap underneath the line that you've drawn to break the glass underneath it. So it works really well. It's very interesting to do. So that's just the glass cutter. I got 2 of those on Amazon for about 14 bucks. This is a FID. It's a specific tool for glass work. This one's a plastic one. You can get wooden ones as well. Basically, you use it to open up the channels where your glass is going to go. You use it to pick stuff out and flatten stuff down. It's got a few uses. I bought a length of this. This is lead cane. It's like a H channel, I think. So it's got a gap in that side and this side. And I only used about that much of it, but I had to buy a whole meter. But that's okay, I'll find use for it. And then I had to buy the lead solder as well. I should have bought some flux, but I didn't think of that. So that we will have to purchase before I can finish the job completely. But those are the only things that I bought, apart from obviously a piece of glass, to do this job. I used my Dremel to grind, which was very slow and very tedious, but did do what it was supposed to do eventually. And I did do a few bits of practice on, I don't know about you, but whenever I get a unit, I get a lot of just bits of glass doors generally, or bits of mirrors. So I did a bit of work, I did a bit of playing before I started just cutting lines and seeing what I could do. Oh, the other thing that I needed was a metal ruler. So you could run this alongside the metal ruler. And obviously marking equipment, so a pen, a pencil, that kind of thing. Yeah, so there wasn't a lot of outlay to have enough tools to do the job. Perhaps not as expertly as it could have been done, but not bad either. Okay, so what you can't see, that panel is broken. That panel is missing. This panel is broken, and all around the edges here the lead has been twisted. So what we're going to try to do is take just the glass piece out and straighten it all up, cut new pieces, put it all back together, and Bob's your uncle. Very carefully turn it over.
And there's a timber channel that runs all the way around it. So I need to get a chisel to get underneath that. Now be able to just lift the glass out. Alright, so what I want to do first Right, I don't think any more bits are broken, but I need to fix the lead where it's come. Drift. Oh, please remember I have never done this before. So if you work with glass and I'm doing atrocious things, please don't shout at me. doing? Such a sticky beak. Aren't you? Say hello, people. Hello. You're going to get off? You can't stay there. Off you go. Alright, so while it went in okay, all the way around here I've actually cut it just slightly too short so it doesn't go under properly, which I'm not going to worry about. I might put a bead of silicone around there just to hold it in place, but I'm calling it a win for the first time I've ever done it. Okay, so this is where we're at. That's the door as it stands right now. The frame hasn't been completed. The keyhole needs to be put back on, and then obviously the door will go up into its place there. The keyhole will be brass, so it matches up with the florals. And of course the glass is hideously filthy at the moment, so it's not looking as good as it could, but that's how it has turned out. All of the panels are back in where they're supposed to be. It's that one and this one, and this one is my fixed one with its dodgy edge there, but yeah, no, it looks you know, as good as any 50-year-old beat up glass panel thing would. So I'm quite pleased with what we've done and how we've managed it. So the only things left to do really are to solder all of those bits in place so that they don't fall out, and then replace the little wooden pieces that were holding the thing in properly, finish the paint job on the door, and reattach the keyhole. So there's not a lot left to do. I just need to wait for the soldering expert to get here to help me. So yeah, I will let you know how it goes. I will definitely give you a proper photo of it all finished once it's done. But in the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.